inescapable. Through the years, it's always snuck in. Like even in the Bush years, you know, occasionally I'd write songs that were a little political, but you know, it's kind of masked, and maybe people just thought it was just more word salad. I didn't really worry about it. And these days, I feel like it comes out. It comes out more, and I don't even mean it to. It just if I'm going to be honest, like it's just something that's on my mind a lot, so it comes out.
I find it's a case where it's just walking around and doing normal things. It just seeps its way into every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I just try and communicate my personal experience of it, and maybe express it as a metaphor for different things. Like one song, Higher Beams, it's about the world, but using as an analogy like a relationship that you don't want to be in, but you can't figure out how to get out of it.
That is sort of the sense, isn't it? There's just there's like kind of an existential dread, I think, that's just pervasive these days.
Yeah. So there's a line in that song, it's like, you know, when you can't afford to leave. I was just thinking of like people who stay in a relationship because it's too expensive to try and find, especially it's in New York.
That's such a New York thing, yeah.
Like if we break up, I'm going to need $10,000 to put first the next months, and you know, so I was thinking of that, and I feel like every song you could probably go through it and find something like that.
There's always been this love it or leave it line, you know? I mean, that was definitely a thing during the Bush years. Mm-hmm. It's the same question with everything else, which is like, you can't just go. You can't just leave the country. Certainly you can't leave the planet.
But the whole love it or leave it line is complete bullshit.
Sure.
It's only, people only say that when it works for them. And when it doesn't work for them, it's like, no, it's something else. Just like people used to, you know, Russia used to be the thing, like, go afterwards, see what it's like to live in Russia, you pinko, like, you commune. And now it's like the same people that were saying that a few years ago are suddenly like, oh, Russia's our best friend.
In a sense, it's your patriotic duty to stay and try to make it better, right?
Mm-hmm. Although, not my patriotic duty, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
But my wife is American, and my son is American. Well, half American. So
is that how that works?
Well, if your father's a Canadian, then you're
It's not like Judaism. It's not passed through the mother's side.
You know, the interesting thing is he has 2 passports, and we were told, like, don't tell anybody at the border that he has 2 passports. When you're going into America, just show the American passport. Mm-hmm. When you're going into Canada, show the Canadian passport.
What's the thinking behind that?
I think because they're just so, you know, there's so much prejudice, so much stupidity, that why make your life more difficult by saying, like, oh, he has both passports.
It's always felt like the U.S. and Canada were pretty kindred spirits, and certainly the border crossing has been easier up there than, like, Mexico, for example, for you know, reasons of immigration. Mm-hmm. But do you think that that's changed in recent years?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really have problems anymore because I have a green card, and you know, like, I'm Canadian with a green card, so it's I'm doing pretty well when I cross. You know, I feel like I've got more documentation than the average border guard does. Yeah. So, and also, you know, I'm just a straight white guy. You know, I'm even super pale. You know, I've even got the red hair. I've even got the red hair to push the point how white I am. So I don't get harassed. I used to get harassed when I had long hair, because, you know, I looked at, you know, in the grunge years. Because then it was like I was a weird looking punk, and all of a sudden they hated me. You know, it all comes down to this ignorance of people don't like somebody that looks different. That's why, like, people don't understand. It's like, okay, you hate people that aren't white. Once we get rid of all the people that aren't white, they're coming after you. Yeah. Then they're gonna be looking about, like, okay, who are the weird white people? Who are the white people that we don't like? You know, like, you think that's like, never going to stop.
Prejudice against Italians and Irish people. I mean, obviously the Jewish thing is still pervasive, but that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I know, and it's insane.
Yeah. in the lead up to Trump and since, do you have these conversations with your wife of just like, hey, I have Canadian citizenship. We could always...
She's the one that really wants to go.
Yeah. Is that still plan B for you?
Yeah, I think so. She wants to go to Vancouver, which is where I'm from, and we know people there, but it's insanely overpriced.
Yeah.
And also...
Is it worse than New York?
In its way, it is.
Yeah. It's like
LA, when you consider
maybe.
how much people make...
Sure.
Compared with what you get, like a tear down shack in Skid Row that you're just buying for the plot of land is like over $1 million.
Jesus.
It's just it seems more absurd because you understand why a 1-bedroom apartment is $600,000 or $700,000 here.
Yeah.
It's just because look where you are.
Yeah.
But it's not even that much. You can get a 1-bedroom apartment in the East Village for like probably $500,000 or less. But you get to be in the East Village, so there's a logic to that. The logic of a 1-bedroom being $600,000 or $700,000 in Vancouver is a little lost on me. So I've talked about going to Montreal, is the town I love, but my wife doesn't want to go there because there's a language problem, and it's hard to work if you don't speak French. I don't want to have to leave.
Do you miss the city?
It's New York.
Just city. You're in Woodstock, which is pretty rural.
But it's only 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
So we can come to New York on day trips. So I love that. It makes it so easy. We can say, hey, let's go to the MoMA today. Let's go to, Museum of Natural History. Let's go to the Met today. Or anything I want to do. And I like that. It's easy to come and do stuff like this.
Yeah. There's something about living... I think in cities in general, but New York and other kind of large, tightly packed cities specifically, where you feel like you're just kind of punching a muscle all the time. It kind of wears on you to live in the city.
It's a little, even when I'm driving.
Yeah. Well, you just have like a crazy commute from midtown, which...
Yeah, when I have to be the driver, all of a sudden I realize, okay, I understand what I didn't like about being here. Or even just walking the streets for a while, this is kind of when you live here, you learn that you should avoid Times Square. You don't want to be stuck there. Don't accidentally be walking and find you're in Times Square, because then you really hate New York, because it's the New York that has hardly any people from New York in it.
Is Woodstock a good place for you in terms of being a professional musician?
Yeah, it's one of the best places to be. Really? Per capita, I can't think of a place that has more musicians. It's absolutely insane, and you see legendary musicians there. There's Donald Fagen, there's John Sebastian.
And your wife is connected to the Levon Helm.
Yeah. She manages it. So I saw Jackson Brown there last year, and it's an interesting collecting place for people, or the actor Brad Dourif lives there, and we're friends with him, and he came to our show, and it's still kind of exciting.
Yeah,
seeing how my bandmates respond, oh yeah, we see him around regularly because he lives here, and then I forget, he's like a famous Oscar nominated actor. It's like I said, it's a great collecting place for people, and so I feel like we met a lot of great people there. I have a lot of good friends.
What role does music play in your life when you're off tour or not recording a record?
I think I'm always, to some degree, I'm always tinkering on something in my studio. And if I'm not doing that, it's because I'm busy doing something else.
Yeah.
Just being a normal person who has to go shopping or... Do
you have to sort of set yourself that regular schedule in order to get stuff done?
Not necessarily. It's easier for me to do now, I think, because my wife is working semi full time. My son goes to school, so it gives me those days where between 9 and 3 o'clock, I can, for the most part, unless I have to run errands for some reason or do something else, I could say I'm going to work 6 hours today in the studio. And I rarely do that, but it's nice if I can get a few hours in. Authors will try and write 5 pages a day.
Yeah.
Just Like, it doesn't matter if it's finished. It
doesn't matter if you throw them out.
5 pages. And I feel that way. Like, it's good to just get in and work for an hour or two on something, and then maybe come back and listen to it and think, okay, do I like this? Is this really good? Or is it something worth working on? With the hope that if I do that enough, it will eventually come together and there will be a snowball effect.
They say the most important part of writing is editing, and for musicians it seems to be important to leave something, to let something sort of sit by itself for a while and then revisit it with fresh ears.
Yeah, and because sometimes you forget that you did it, and then you can... That's the best kind of fresh ears. It's like you're listening to it as if it's not even you.
It feels good in the moment as you're creating it, but it could be terrible. You need to go back.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like I think because I'm always like working on so many different little things. Like if I go back to something and I don't think it's good, I can just I can go past it and go, okay, don't worry. Don't be sad that didn't work. Like go into the next thing. And maybe you'll go back to that idea later. Maybe you'll go back to that idea and go, okay, what if I played it like a ballad? What if I sped it up by 20 BPM and it was like an upbeat song? And all of a sudden, like, oh, there it is. I sped it up, and now it's an upbeat song, and it's much better.
I think I was on the last record. You were describing some of the songs as being almost like krautrock, but everything you touch sounds like you.
That's the hope, and I trust that. I make this assumption, no matter what I do, that it will sound like me. Like I try to remember that, and that makes me feel like I can do things that I think are weirder. Like on this record, there was some, there's some kind of strange strings on them, and I thought, well, it's still gonna sound like us. It's just gonna sound like us with these bizarro strings on them.
You haven't rejected something because it doesn't fit the new Pornographers mold?
Not really. The first solo album I did in 2004 was filled with songs that were leftovers that I thought didn't belong in a Pornographers record. And then I put that out, and that got a really good reaction. And then I thought, maybe it doesn't matter what I think is the Pornographers. And then from that moment forward, I thought, Pornographers will just be whatever I want it to be. So... Then, after that, ballads started showing up on Pornographers songs. Like, Twin Cinema had a couple of ballads, and Challengers had, more than a couple of ballads. I just thought, we can do whatever we want.
How much does the dynamic change if there aren't those, 2 to 3 dance songs on?
I think the dynamic is... That is for the listener to decide. Like, it doesn't affect how I make music.
It's not like a Lennon-McCartney situation where he's pushing you?
No. Like Dan would have his songs, and that was it. And then I would be in the studio working on his songs, but he was never in the studio working on my songs.
Yeah.
So, I've said to people, it's like, if you want to know what this record would sound like if Dan was still in the band, just take a couple songs from his last record and mix it in with the album that we made, it's something very much like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think because he's gone in some really interesting directions in the past couple of records. I'm trying to imagine like a 14-minute electronic jazz song on the new Pornographers.
Does he have any 14-minute long songs?
I mean, there's a couple recently where he's been sort of he's been stretching out kind of in interesting ways, but it does seem like regardless of the fact that there's ballads or whatever direction you're going in, the pervasive theme, whether it's your song or one of his songs, is that it's a pretty tight, 3-4 minute pop song. Like that's the new Pornographers to me.
Yeah. Although we
sure,
we've gone over that, and people will sometimes complain when we do. It's like, why is this song 5 minutes long? It's like, well, other people are allowed to make 5-minute long songs.
Does the dynamic change when you're the sole person driving production?
Not really. No, I think every time I'm in the studio, I'm just trying to make the song sound as good as I can make it sound. I mean, I've become more savvy in the studio, so a lot of the things I want to do, I can just do. Whereas before, I needed someone to, help me do it.
A lot of musicians tell me that bringing in different producers for different records is almost like bringing in like a new member for the band, that it sort of changes the direction.
I could see that. Like I've never wanted to work with another producer because out of kindness to that producer, like I wouldn't want to waste that producer's time
or be over their shoulder breathing into the
because the thing I feel like like I have a pretty good idea of what I want us to be, and I don't want to make that leap of faith. Like just because you made, like working with Dave Fridman or something, it's like you made some amazing records, but that doesn't mean that will work. That doesn't mean that you will come in here and transform us into Tame Impala or Flaming Lips or any other band that we would magically like to be. And then there are other producers like Steve Albini, where I feel like they're just really great, no-nonsense producers, and I think, oh man, he would not tolerate us for a second. He would not tolerate me walking into the studio and going, yeah, the song's only about half finished. I just want to work on it and just see where it goes.
Is that standard for you?
Yeah, because I know a song will change in the studio. So sometimes they're finished, but a lot of the time I think I'm not going to worry about it being done. Like I'm not worried if I like the words, or I'm not even worried if it has words yet. I'll start playing the song and it'll just be some gibberish.
How kind of micromanagey are you once you're in the studio with the song, or do you let people take it in their own direction?
In some ways I'm really a micromanager when I have an idea what I want it to be. There are points when they are saying, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Like I'll be saying, do it like this. Not this. And they'll go, it sounds like the same thing. I'll go, but it's not. But sometimes I don't know what to do, and I'll just say, could you do something cool here? I don't know what to do. So
I'm just thinking of like the hubris it must take to try to tell, like, no, Nico Case, this is how to sing a song.
And yet, it's sometimes it's like, this is...
You've got a clear picture in your head of what it sounds like.
I remember an early thing is on the first records, I would tell Nico, because she had that sort of twang in her voice, and I was saying, like, can you sing it like it's more like a robot? Like, can you just sing it just with just like no twang at all, just like a laser beam? And that was the running joke, was like sing it like a robot. And later she said she was singing on a Jacob Dylan record, and T-Bone Burnett was producing it, and they were trying to get the sound, and it wasn't working. And then she said, well, in the Pornographers, they tell me to sing like a robot. And he said, yes, try that. Try singing like a robot. And apparently that worked.
Yeah.
So it was good to know. It was like, you're welcome, T-Bone Burnett. Like I showed you how to get those classic robotic Nico Case vocals. And I think that's not telling her how to sing. It's when you're singing in harmony, when you're trying to get everybody in tight harmony, like there's not a lot of room for like lead singing. Like when she's a lead singer, it's like just go do your thing. And sometimes you're just like you want this tight ball of 3 or 4 people singing together.
I think it's one of the nice things that's afforded the fact that everybody's got their own things going on at the same time, that we can all come together and try to make this the best it is, but then obviously she and everybody else can go off and be themselves on their own projects.
Yeah, and occasionally I've been writing songs with Nico, and that's interesting for me, and that sometimes I'm just trying to like help her. Like I'm not trying to interject my own thing necessarily. Yeah. I'm not saying, what the melody was this? It's like, hey, I wrote a part for you. Sometimes I'm just going like, okay, how about how about that part's good? Well, how about if we use that part? Like it's helping her in a way that I'm just stepping out of myself, and I'm not even. I'm trying to help without really interjecting, just thinking, well, I think this part's really good. Like, that sounds like a chorus to me. So how about this part is the verse, and how about if you put that part later? And that's fun, because it's almost like being creative, but using a different part of my brain.
And you get to be the listener. You get to almost enjoy the product in a way you can't when you're producing.
Exactly.
Is there a kind of a tacit understanding at this point that every 2, 3, every couple years that the band's going to get back together and do this again?
I don't know. It just seems to happen. You know, like I want to start doing more recording, and I don't know
You want to do record? You mean
like I want to start working on another record.
Oh,
like in fact, to the extent that we're actually going to do some more bed tracks, like in less than a week, and on a day off of tour, and I just want to keep making music and not like I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop just because it's like of scheduling, like if. Like if I have another record done and Nico says, well, I want to do my own record, then I think that's just a bridge you cross.
You mean if she's unavailable for the next one?
Yeah, like maybe I could get her to sing on it, but if she can't tour it, then I think, okay, well, yeah, let's figure that out.
I mean, that sounds like that's essentially what happened with Dan, at least on the last one.
I mean, yeah, I think Dan just started getting like wrapped up in his own thing, and like Destroyer was like taking up a lot of his time, and to a certain degree, as much as we're friends and we're still friends, I think Dan did a lot of touring with us for money. Like I think we were like it was like an easy. I think we were an easy day job. Like it was much easier for him to just like come along and hang out and sing 5 or 6 or 7 songs with us.
You feel like it wasn't like creatively fulfilling for him in the same way?
Well, it's just not like it's just different because it's not like his creation. I think it was always like like we work together, but I think like for Nico and Dan, the Pornographers is always sort of like a side thing.
Yeah.
Where it's my main thing. So I think it was creatively fulfilling for Dan, but it was obviously different. It was like Destroyer is his motorcycle, and the new Pornographers is like the sidecar.
Is the sidecar still like waiting in the garage for him, or?
Yeah. It's always I'll always be willing to do stuff with him. And one of the songs on this record, basically co-wrote, and that I sent the song to him, and I was like, hey, do you have any ideas for this? And he like sent me, like a bunch of like lyrics he'd written. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this. It's like, I'm going to use this line, I'm going to use this line, I'm going to use this line. And then I realized, okay, I guess this is technically our first co-write. So there'll always be that. But I feel like it's, we're almost 20 years into this. Like October 2020 will be like the 20th anniversary of Mass Romantic. So it's been going on. It's crazy how long it's been going on. Like we outlasted the Beatles by about 12 years. And a lot of bands. For me, I just want to keep making music and I try not to worry about all the other stuff, which is, I don't want to say it's bullshit. Well, it's nice. It's nice to do stuff like this, but like, I don't want to let all the other stuff bother me. Like I hate worrying about what do people think about the record? What do the critics think about the record? Like, how many tickets did we sell? Did we sell as many tickets as we did last time we came here? Like, all that stuff, I hate it because it takes me away from what I love, and that's like making the records and writing the records. And it's fun to play in front of people. And you don't want that to be tainted by you asking yourself, like, is this enough? Are there enough people? Do the people like us?
The idea of a band, this band specifically, is kind of an abstraction, and it's sort of like you'll cross whatever bridge when you come to it. Mm-hmm. You aside, is there anybody you feel like if they weren't involved in it, then it wouldn't be the new Pornographers?
I really don't know. If Nico said like, I hate you and I don't want to do this anymore, I think I'd still be making these records.
You'd have other things to worry about.
Well, I think I'd still be making these records which sound very much like the new Pornographers, but they wouldn't have her in them. I don't think but that doesn't seem like the case. I feel like, the relationship between Nico and I arguably feels like stronger now than it's ever been. And that's good. It doesn't mean like she's all in and she's like, I'm putting my solo career on the back burner, or that she'll always be playing with us. So, I mean, that makes me happy to know that as long as we're both still alive, I'm pretty sure I'll always be able to call Nico up and go, hey, will you sing on these songs? And that feels like a great thing to have in your pocket.
Yeah.
And you have this close friend who also has this laser beam of a voice that you can use in your songs. You know, I think I was talking to somebody earlier. Living in Woodstock, there's a lot of older artists and musicians, and it inspires me that they feel so relevant still. Like, I mean, not that people are still writing about them, or not that they're still a massive draw, but they're not old people. They're not old people waiting to die. They're 80 years old. They're still doing their thing. You talk to them and they're still sharp. They're still funny. They're still creating things. And I think that's what I want to do. I just want to do this until I die. Like, even if I stop, even if I'm not touring anymore.
By this you mean music generally, or the New Pornographers specifically?
Music. And possibly, the New Pornographers. Possibly I will always be calling it the New Pornographers. Yeah. Maybe 20 years from now, there will be New Pornographers, and people will be going, he shouldn't even been able to use that name.
There you go. That was a very frank and wonderful conversation with Carl Newman, of course, of the New Pornographers and a solo project, AC Newman. He's somebody I interviewed a long, long time ago, so good to catch up, albeit pretty short. We were a little bit rushed for time, and that one was recorded in a bathroom, but it was a beautiful bathroom, and it was a delightful conversation. The New Pornographers' latest In the Morse Code of Brake Lights is out now, one of their best records. Highly recommend you check that out. Thanks so much to him. Thanks to you, as always, for listening to the program. If you like the show, there are a number of ways to support us. You can rate and review us on iTunes, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify and YouTube. Like us on Facebook. If you have any feedback, it's rwellcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Tumblr. That's rwellcast.tumblr.com. And that's about all we got for this week, so stick around because we're going to be back just about this time next week with another episode of RIYL.